Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, everyone. I hope you guys are doing great. My name is Aisyah binti Rosli, metric number 1190171, and we are group 1 from KPE class. Inshallah, in this video, my friends and I would like to share about pandemic from an Islamic perspective. So, first of all, let's get to know the definition of pandemic. A pandemic is an epidemic occurring on a scale that crosses international boundaries, usually affecting people on a worldwide scale. A disease or condition is not a pandemic merely because it is widespread or kills many people. It must also be infectious. For instance, cancer is responsible for many deaths, but is not considered a pandemic because the disease is not contagious or easily transmittable and not even simply infectious. The world is currently experiencing yet another pandemic of respiratory diseases. The COVID-19 pandemic, also known as the coronavirus pandemic, is an ongoing global pandemic of coronavirus disease 2019 caused by severe acute respiratory syndrome coronavirus 2. The virus was first identified in December 2019 in Wuhan, China. The World Health Organization (WHO) declared a public health emergency of international concern regarding COVID-19 on 30 January 2020 and later declared a pandemic on 11 March 2020. As of 12 June 2021, more than 175 million cases have been confirmed, with more than 3.78 million confirmed deaths attributed to COVID-19, making it one of the deadliest pandemics in history. Next, we will also discuss about other topics such as earlier history of previous pandemics and infectious diseases, Muslim scholars' contributions in the field of infectious diseases, diseases and pandemics in the Quran and Hadith, solution or treatment of pandemic.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Afa binti Tuanmat, metric number 1190175. Today I would like to talk about early history of previous pandemics and infectious diseases. Among the examples of previous infectious diseases that have befallen our world were first, Antonine plague. This plague first appeared during the Roman siege of Mesopotamia, the city of Seleucia. This plague spread in Egypt, Greece, and Italy, and it occurred in 165 to 118, and the number of deaths reached 10 million people. And there is not possibility that the Antonine outbreak, which is considered smallpox, can be cured. It is not even treatable. The best thing Galen's famous doctor can do is to give a note on the symptoms shown by the person affected with this virus, such as the death and the symptomatic one who are likely to recover. Second, Black Death plague. This plague originated from Crimea and spread out to the continent of Europe, Africa, and Asia. It occurred from 3046 to 3053. The number of deaths, 75 million to 200 million human. The plague ended in isolation until it was proven that they were not affected by the plague, where they need to be quarantined. Third, influenza pandemic. This pandemic began in the United States, appeared in West Africa and France, and it occurred from February 1918 to April 1920. The number of deaths, 50 to 100 million people worldwide were killed. At that time, treatment for the Spanish flu had not been discovered, and it was only advised to rest and maintain adequate nutrition and hydration. Next, plague of Emwas. It comes from the city of Emwas or Emmaus, Nicopolis in Palestine. It spread across in Syria and also affect in Iraq and Egypt from 638 to 639. Mm, this plague killed 25,000 people, and this plague end with quarantine. Next, smallpox plague. The finding of smallpox like rash on Egyptian mummies caused this plague. Millions of people die. The last naturally occurring case was diagnosed in October 1977, and this smallpox was with a vaccine. Edward Jenner was the first person to prove the effectiveness of vaccination with smallpox using scientific experiment. And last, I will talk about cholera pandemic. First pandemic originating in India in 1817 to 1824. More than 15 million people died, and way to treatment displayed with oral rehydration therapy, zinc supplementation, intravenous fluid, and antibiotic.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Nurhuda binti Zainuddin and I will explain about Muslim scholars' contributions in the field of infectious disease. Firstly, Abu Bakr Muhammad ibn Zakaria Razi or Al-Razi or Razes. He was a Persian polymath and responsible for 200 works on alchemy, medicine, chemistry, and philosophy. During his work as a director in a hospital in Baghdad, he wrote 25-volume Kitab al-Hawi fi Tib, the comprehensive book of medicine, and translated into Latin in 1249. His research is really rely on Hippocrates, Galen, great physician Rufus of Ephesus, Orbezius, Paulus of Aegina, and many Indian sources. He then also expanded research and emphasized the importance of health preservation and explored side effects of drugs and diet on organ. Furthermore, he explored the idea of infectious disease, and he was the first to notice that many were afflicted with upper respiratory systems in the springtime. In his next book, Kitab al-Jadari wal-Hasba, a monograph on smallpox and measles, translated into Latin, and the book was used for 2 centuries as a reference and during smallpox outbreak. During the plague, he also quoted the work of Aaron the priest, who was possibly Harun ibn al-A'yan al-Qas. He describes the smallpox outbreak in his Kitab fi at-Tib, book of medicine. Then we continue with the next Muslim scholars, which is Ali ibn al-Abbas al-Majusi, or Mas'udi or Hali Abbas. He was a physician born into a Zoroastrian family. He surveyed all the great medical works including Hippocrates, Galen, and Arazi. He criticized that Al-Arazi's book on medicine as being disorganized, too long, and very expensive. He then wrote Kitab al-Malaki, the royal book, a concise and systematic encyclopedia divided into 2 sections on medical theory and practical to counter with Arazi's book. Besides that, Al-Majusi was also explored certain diseases including leprosy, scabies, consumption, and epidemic fever. He believed that illness exposed to unhealthy air will most certainly become ill. Extremes in seasonal weather could also affect health during epidemic. Local vapor and exhalation bukharat are used to help prevent plague. During the plague, local also use the mixture of 80 substances as a plaque treatment. Sorrel, sour pomegranate, and citrus fruits were believed to be effective in preventing and curing plaque. Next, we move on to the next Muslim scholars, who is Ibn Sina or Avicenna. His full name is Abu Ali al-Hussein bin Abdullah ibn al-Hasan bin Ali ibn Sina. He was one of the greatest polymaths in his times. He wrote more than 50 treatises covering astronomy, metaphysics, medicine, theology, and poetry. Qanun fi at-Tib, the Canon of Medicine, is one of his masterpieces, which is a medical encyclopedia. The book Al-Qanun fi at-Tib became the primary medicine textbooks in the East and the West for 7 centuries. In the book, he explained about the plaque symptoms in Arabic to Greek terminology and gave relevant medical treatment and remedies. He also advocated that home needed to be perfumed with ambergris, champour, sandal, and cypress to purify the air. He also suggests to include vinegar, onion, sardines, and citron in diet, and wearing ruby rings as a plague repellent. That's all from me. Thank you.
My name is Nazira binti Sharni, metric number 1190178. I'll be asking about disease and pandemic in the Quran and Hadith. Alright, a pandemic has never happened in human history. There are several documented outbreaks among those that have been outbreak of the disease in the mid-14th century. Also known as the Black Death, which lead the demographic decline in the both Muslim and Christian countries. Based on the general guideline of Islam, we sought to identify the similarity between the pandemic COVID-19 with the previous generation of Muslim experience and draw a lesson on general and practical response to the pandemic, with reference to the generation of the Prophet's companion. Disease and pandemic in the Quran. Some examples in the Quran that are not directly related to the outbreak of disease. In general, no special word to do with the disease, do not like how Etau mentioned in the prophetic tradition. However, the story mentioned reflect the problem afflicting the country that show the occurrence of epidemic. Following the climax of the verse of the sign given to Moses as punishment for the disbeliever of Egypt in relation to Pharaoh and his people. In Surah Al-Ma'idah, meaning, so we send upon them the storm and locusts and lice and frog and blood, as signs distinct from each other. Yet they show arrogant and they were a guilty people. A series of calamities befell them. This whole country are forced them to beg Moses to pray for the punishment to be removed by God. Another verse tells the story of the dead who escaped the plague in their land. In Surah Al-Baqarah, have you not considered those who left their home in many thousand fearing death? Allah said to them, die. Then He restored them to life, and Allah is full of bounty to the people, but most of the people do not show gratitude. This refers to the 4,000 men of Israelites who fled from their village affected by the epidemic. However, they died from the angle cry when they arrived in the lush valley, although they tried to save themselves from the epidemic. Alright, to be continued, disease and pandemic in Hadith occur in the time of Umar radhiallahu anhu. He was told by Abu Ubaidah of the plague when he was about to enter the city. Umar then decided to return to Medina after consulting with his other companion from the Ansar, the Muhajirin, and the former leader of Quraysh. After the decision was made based on his ijtihad, Abdul Rahman bin Auf come to narrate from the Prophet Muhammad SAW, if you hear of an outbreak of plague in a land, do not enter it. But if the plague break out in a place while you are in it, do not leave that place. Sahih Bukhari. Umar's decision has led to a lengthy debate about the exact response to epidemic and other disease. Abu Ubaidah argued that the cancellation of the mission was like running away from the God decree. However, Umar's decision was also supported by the prophetic tradition narrated by Abdurrahman bin Auf. On the same occasion, has become a general rule applied by later Muslim authors regarding plagues and epidemic that one should avoid entering the plague-stricken city but should not try to escape away from him if he was already there. Despite different of opinion, Abu Umar radhiyallahu anhu and other companions over the years has collectively tried their best to prevent the spread of disease while accepting it as a decree of Allah.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. My name is Hanis binti Hussein, number matric 1190172, and I want to talk about the solution of pandemic. We all know that COVID-19 is spread over the world, and we are trying to avoid it and try to stop it from spread. And COVID-19, as you know, is recognized as a contagious disease, and the severity of symptoms is leading us to death with the passage of time. In the Malaysia, there are many people who are die from this disease. COVID-19 spread to 110 countries in last 3 months. The spread of this disease is possible in a suitable environment and the presence of its host. A healthy person can be infected by droplets of secretions in the air and close contact. Okay, we can see there are 6 scientific treatment of COVID-19. Firstly is disinfect and wash hands frequently or use alcohol and hygiene to kill the virus. As we know, like when we when a mall, we have to use wash hand, and second, use hand sanitizers that containing 60% alcohol. This will always we use. Third, avoid touch eyes, nose and mouth with unclean hand. Unclean hand can make we don't know what virus in our hand, and yeah, don't touch eyes, nose and mouth. Fourth, wear mask and clean, sterilize and disinfect the place or surface which used frequently at home. Like in the kitchen, we use knife, always clean and sterilize that things. Okay, fifth, social distance. Social distance, like we do in Malaysia, the effect of coronavirus can be minimized by keeping 3 feet or 1 meter distance from others. From we know, as I told earlier, a healthy person can be infected by droplets in the air and close contact, so the social distance can minimize from infect by the close contact. Okay, 6, quarantine. A person suffering from a contagious disease is restrained and isolated for a particular time.
Quarantine and isolation are two terms with subtle differences among us.
Hi, it's me again, Asha Rosli, for the conclusion part. In the nutshell, if individuals do not respond appropriately or modify their lives to the new normal, the coronavirus pandemic will continue to have increasingly terrible consequences. To combat the epidemic, people must adjust their behavior, such as maintain social distancing and personal hygiene, decrease face-to-face communication, wash their hands regularly, and avoid social gatherings. Because we all share the same planet, our activities will always have an impact on others, whether for the better or for the worse. We have an option in how we respond to the COVID-19 disaster. Last but not least, during this pandemic COVID-19, let's all of us cut the virus chain by practicing 3 Ws. Wash, wear and warn. Also, avoid 3 Cs. Confined places, crowded places and close contact. Together we are stronger. Obey the SOP. Hashtag kita jaga kita. Hashtag stay home, stay safe. Thank you.